when we come to the end of the season, you start to look back and think, what were the top 10 plants that we actually sold through the nursery and at the plant fairs and shows? Hello, I'm Rosie Hardy. This is Rosie Hardy Gardening. If you enjoy our videos, please do subscribe to the channel. Now, it's quite interesting when you look back at what we have sold on the nursery. Now, the top 10 doesn't change a huge amount, and you'd think, well, perhaps it would. Well, there are usual suspects who will always be on that top list, and that includes verbenas, geums, and then you get things like anemone. Those are sort of, and Erigeron. Those are your sort of staple plants which will always sell. Now, whether they come high up the top 10 or in the middle will depend really upon the amount of stock we actually have available. So here on the nursery, we will look at what we sold the previous year. We will see what stock and residue stock we have got left that we're overwintering, and therefore it is ready first thing in the spring. And we will work out and sort of guesstimate what we actually need to produce. So if a plant literally sold out and we haven't got any stock left, then we will add and do extra. But you've got to be a little bit cautious as well, because you don't want to produce an extra 1,000 plants and then find you sell maybe only half of that and then you're left with some stock, because that's not very good for how we work. Although we do keep stock over, because if we grow it in one of our smaller pots like this, so this is a 1 litre container, we would then pot that up into a 3 litre container. So you would then have this size plant going into that, making a bigger plant, which is a more mature plant which can go on. That is absolutely fine, but not everybody wants a bigger plant. So sometimes we might be able to split this plant and make 2. So that is just the process of the nursery. So let's have a look at what are the usual suspects and what actually sold really well. Well, number 2 on the list is Verbena bonariensis. Now, before you all go up in arms and go, oh, for heaven's sake, it's seeds around all over the place, it's a really dreadful plant because it just takes over. Well, there are some people, including me, who cannot get Verbena bonariensis to seed around in their gravel garden. It doesn't work. I have to think of it as an annual, and I like it in my garden. It is really good. It flowers freely. You get lots of height. It waves around, but it does not reseed for me in my gravel garden. So therefore I have to put it in every year and replant it. And there are other people who do that. The other thing is new gardens where landscapers are utilizing plants, they will use this. Now, I know there are other plants out there, but at the moment, that is something which is easily produced and can go out for people. So Verbena bonariensis comes number 2 on the list. Number 4 on the list is Erigeron karvinskianus. Now again, that is often known as the Spanish daisy. Beautiful little plant. If you go to somewhere like Great Dixter or even down to the south of England, down UK, down into Devon and Cornwall, it grows all over the walls and there on the Channel Islands. It self-seeds itself all over the place. But again, there are people and there are customers that we have who just cannot get it to do this. So they will replant it every year and they will use it in troughs. They will use it in big containers just to have interest there. So that is another one. So that came number 4 on the list. Now then, of our other plants that are really good, and I've only marked up 5 here. Here we go. Number 5, hello and behold, is a geum. Geum totally tangerine, and this is what they look like at this time of the year. Really good little plant. Since we introduced this plant, it has been a really good seller. It is a fantastic thing. Good height, it's a middle of the border, lovely soft tangerine orange. For all these people who like hot borders and things that rebloom, that is really good. Now I know in certain gardens, especially if you are incredibly hot or have incredibly dry soil, then it doesn't rebloom as well. When it's on slightly heavier soils, which have got a bit more moisture available, so in the clays and stuff like that, it will rebloom. But it is a great plant, having said that. So that came number 5 on our list. Going down the list, number 7 was another geum, and that is Geum Scarlet Tempest. Now, that should have gone higher than Totally Tangerine, but we didn't have as much stock this year, and so therefore we sold out, and we had to sell other geums. Well, other geums came into the list. So other of the Tempest series came in. So Geum Scarlet Tempest is brilliant. It's not as tall as Totally Tangerine, so somewhere around about 2 foot 60 centimeters by about 18 inches, 45 centimeters at the base. Lovely double red. Again, one for those hot borders, really good in containers. Fabulous plant. We're going to grow more of it next year. Then number 5 on the usual suspects was Anemone Frilly Knickers, and that just does really, really well. Again, it was a little bit later into flower. We've had an incredibly difficult season here in the UK because we were incredibly wet right the way through the winter, the spring, and the wet kept on going. We were wet right the way through to probably May. That meant that we were incredibly grey. You know, the skies were grey a lot of the time. The light levels were very poor. Plants were growing, but they weren't actually coming into flower like they should have done. So Anemone Frilly Knickers did. It was growing brilliantly, but it flowered a little bit later than it would do normally. But it still sold really, really well. If you enjoy learning about gardening from me, then why not take a look at my propagation workshop? This is an online course, and this is all about herbaceous perennials. So you are going to learn all of the skills that are required to propagate more plants from your garden for free. For more information, please click the link in comments below. Or you can scan the QR code on the screen right now. So continuing on this theme of the top 10, let's go to the more unusual plants that made it into the top 10 this year. At number 1 was Verbena Bampton. Now this is a really lovely plant. It's a free flowering form. It's got this beautiful purple foliage. It flowers and flowers and flowers. Yes, it can seed about, but not as badly as its cousin Verbena bonariensis. Now I can grow Verbena Bampton in my gravel garden. I am very happy for it to grow in there. It sits in full sun, baking hot sun. It gets up to 28, 29 degrees centigrade, and it gets full sun when we have sun. But also where this is in the gravel garden, that bit of gravel garden also gets flooded in the winter. So this has done incredibly well. In my gravel garden, it doesn't get much taller than 60 to 75 centimetres, so just over 2 foot. If it's in a slightly better soil, it will go up to nearer 3 feet, so 90 centimetres. So just be aware, position of where you put it is important. Now it will go in semi-shade, but the semi-shade that you want to grow it in is where it gets full sun for part of the day. Because as I've always said to you before now is, think of purple foliage as a suntan. And basically, how do you get a suntan? If you're in full sun. So full sun for part of the day, it only needs 4 to 5 hours of full sun, then it can go in part shade. You will always find that the underneath foliage will be a little bit greener. Then what I tend to do with mine, I do let some of them stay up and in full flower and have a little bit of seed, but I also cut them back down and then get reblooming, and I don't get a plant that collapses. So that is a good trick with that. So Verbena Bampton was number 1, and so a little bit more unusual, really great plant, fabulous. Then number 3, which I was really pleased with, was this, the Anisodontea. So this is the longest flowering plant on the nursery. It flowers all year round. We're in the middle of December and look at it, it's still flowering. This is a young plant, it'll keep on going. That is brilliant. I am so pleased that Anisodontea El Rayo has actually got into the top 3. And that was a little bit more from the point of view that we actually produced more this year. It'd have been in the top 3 probably 2 or 3 years previous to that if we had got our production up to speed. But you know, sometimes you haven't got the material, sometimes the year is not there, and other times other plant material is required, and so it gets pushed back a little bit. So we got it right on, bang on the nail this time. So that came out at number 3. Number 6 was Origanum Kent Beauty. Now this is a fabulous little alpine type plant. It doesn't get much bigger than say a foot round and just under 8 inches tall, but it has the most fantastic what look like inflorescences or flowers, but actually what you are seeing are bracts, and the flowers inside are tiny little purple flowers. But it grows in full sun, drought type conditions. It doesn't matter if it gets really soaked and then comes up. And it's one of these ones where you leave the top growth there over the winter, and then in the spring you'll see beautiful new shoots coming from the middle, and cut back all the old growth and up it comes, and it's fabulous. Grow it in a container, put it in full sun, in free draining soil. It'll grow in builder's rubble. It is a cracking little plant, so I'm really pleased that that made it up there. Then number 8 was Achillea Pomegranate. Now this is one of the new breedings of Achillea. This is a free flowering form. It has got beautiful heads, a fantastic bright, it's a difficult colour to describe. So it is a pink, but it's a really dark red pink, really beautiful. I mean, it is the colour of pomegranate seed. It's that sort of intensity of colour, and it makes these wonderful domed heads of Achillea, and it doesn't get too tall. So you're talking about something that is quite compact, somewhere between 50 and 60 centimetres, making a lovely clump, and it reblooms. All you have to do when it's finished, give it a haircut, up it comes, and it comes back, and it is a good perennial. It keeps on going. So that's a really good new form of Achillea, and that is great. So that's good to see. And then number 9 on the list is Allium Sphaerocephalon. So this is the drumstick allium, and this is the one that is basically known as the giant chive. So you get chive-like foliage that comes up, and this one is blooming midsummer. It's not early like a lot of your bulb type ones are. Now this is one that you would put in as bulbs, but once you've got the plants, you divide it like a herbaceous perennial because it grows like chives. So you can just literally lift your clump, move it around, and it will do well. It's good for the middle of the border, and because it is flowering and coming into flower about July, August time, it's really great. And then its heads look fantastic, just left there dry. I suppose the flower heads get up to just under 1 metre, depends on how good your soil is. So if your soil is poorer, it will be shorter, somewhere around about the 2.5 feet, so somewhere around about 75, 80 centimetres. If your soil is better and well mulched and well fed, then it will be up nearer 1 metre 20. So it's really dependent on what the soil is that you put it into. But a cracking bulb, put it in, and then once you've got it, move it around. If you don't want it seeding around, then always, because it produces little bulblets, and the little bulblets will drop around. Some people say, oh, it becomes a little bit of a nuisance, but it is an excellent plant, and it's not that difficult to lift and get rid of the bulbs. Once you've got the bulbs, you know, out of the way, it's quite an easy plant. So let's go over what was in our top 10. Here we go, my top 10 plants from this year. The more usual suspects are done with a tick, the more unlikely ones with an asterisk. So we have number 1, Verbena Bampton, number 2, Verbena bonariensis, number 3, Anisodontea El Rayo, number 4, Erigeron karvinskianus, number 5, Geum totally Tangerine, number 6, Origanum Kent Beauty, number 7, Geum Scarlet Tempest, number 8, Achillea millefolium Pomegranate, number 9 is Allium Sphaerocephalon, and number 10 is Anemone Frilly Knickers. There you go, top 10 of the season. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to watch another video of mine, YouTube thinks this one is perfect for you.